Welcome to Bedtime Finance Stories. Tonight's episode is titled Quiet Reflections on Saving for College, Yours Relaxing Finance Story. In the stillness of evening, we will reflect on the simple yet powerful journey of preparing for education. It begins with small coins placed gently aside, quiet sacrifices made without applause, and patient choices that stretch across the years. Each act, though modest, carries the weight of care and the promise of a lighter tomorrow. As we move through this story, imagine the warmth of a home where preparation is not hurried but steady, where parents choose foresight over impulse, and where time itself becomes an ally. We will wander through the moments of beginning, the rhythm of persistence, and the calm arrival at a future less burdened by debt. Let your mind rest in these gentle reflections, like listening to a soft tale told at night, where numbers become symbols of love and discipline. Now, let us begin. Quiet Reflections on Saving for College, Relaxing Finance Story. Quiet Reflections on Saving for College. The first seed of thought. In the quiet rhythm of daily life, there comes a moment when a parent looks at their child and wonders about the years ahead. College, though distant at first, gradually becomes a thought that lingers. It is not born from urgency, but from the slow awareness that education carries both dreams and costs. Saving for college is rarely a sudden decision. Instead, it begins as a seed, planted by small realizations. A conversation overheard, a letter from a bank, a memory of one's own student debt. The journey often starts modestly. Perhaps it is the opening of a small savings account or the decision to set aside a few dollars each week. At first, it may feel almost insignificant, like placing drops of water into a jar. Yet the act itself carries weight because it represents foresight. It is a whisper into the future, saying, I am preparing for you. In these early days, there is little pressure. The child is still young, and the expenses are far away. But the quiet discipline of starting early has a rhythm of its own. The habit grows gently, without the weight of urgency, and with each small contribution, the idea of readiness becomes more real. Reflection. Even the smallest seeds of preparation, when nurtured with patience, carry the promise of future shade and shelter. The slow accumulation. Time passes quietly, and with it, the slow accumulation of savings. Each deposit may seem small in isolation, but as months become years, the numbers take shape. Interest, though subtle, begins to show its influence, gently compounding the effort. It is like watching a tree stretch upward. Not sudden, but steady, almost imperceptible. Families may choose different paths. Some open specialized accounts designed for education, with tax advantages that reward long-term patience. Others rely on traditional savings, bonds, or conservative investments. The strategy matters less than the persistence, for the essence of saving is consistency, not perfection. Alongside the accumulation comes awareness of the broader financial landscape. Parents begin to see news of rising tuition costs, stories of students burdened by loans, and statistics that reveal how quickly expenses grow. These reminders are sobering, yet they also provide clarity. The act of saving becomes not just preparation, but protection, shielding the future from the full weight of debt. In these years, discipline is not loud. It is quiet, repetitive, and sometimes unremarkable. Yet there is comfort in the steady rhythm, like footsteps along a long path, always moving forward, always closer to the goal. Reflection. Quiet persistence, though often unnoticed, builds the foundation that steadies future steps. The tides of sacrifice. With time, saving is no longer simply about setting aside money. It begins to involve choices and often small sacrifices. Families may decline a vacation or choose a simpler car or reduce expenses that once seemed necessary. These decisions are not always easy, but they are guided by a steady sense of priority. Sacrifice has a texture of quiet strength. It is not dramatic. Rather, it is found in the unspoken decisions of daily life. The child may not notice, at least not immediately, the meals prepared at home instead of dining out, or the cautious hand that hesitates before unnecessary purchases. Yet these decisions, subtle as they are, shape the possibility of the future. This phase can sometimes feel heavy. There may be doubts, questions of whether the effort will be enough, whether the world will shift in ways that make the sacrifice feel small. But such doubts are natural companions of preparation. What matters is not the absence of uncertainty, but the steady commitment despite it. And in the midst of sacrifice, there is also quiet pride. Each choice is not only a limitation, but also a gift, an unseen offering laid gently at the feet of the future. Reflection. Sacrifice, though quiet, is an act of love written in the language of patience and foresight. The lessons of time. As the years advance, the child grows. With their growth, conversations about money, education, and responsibility slowly enter the home. Saving for college is no longer only a parental task. It becomes a lesson, shared gently. Children may learn that money has weight, that choices carry consequences, and that preparation is itself a form of wisdom. The act of saving becomes a teaching tool. Parents explain how accounts grow, how interest works, how small amounts accumulate into something meaningful. In these discussions, numbers are not abstract. They are part of a story of effort, planning, and care. The lessons of time are not only financial. They are lessons of patience, of trust in gradual progress, of the quiet reassurance that consistency outlives impatience. In a world that often demands immediacy, saving for college is a counter-narrative. It is the reminder that some goals are worth years of waiting. By now, the family can look back and see the progress made. The once small account has grown, and the once distant goal feels nearer. Time, though often unnoticed, has been an ally, and with its passing, both savings and wisdom have deepened. Reflection. The passage of time transforms effort into results, and intention into quiet accomplishment. The near horizon. As high school approaches, the horizon of college no longer feels distant. Letters from universities arrive, conversations about majors and campuses begin, and the abstract notion of higher education becomes concrete. With this shift, the purpose of years of saving comes into focus. The financial landscape now looks sharper. Families begin to calculate, compare, and project. How much will tuition be? What scholarships might be available? What role will loans play, and how much of the burden can savings carry? These questions are not always simple, but they are easier to face when preparation has already been made. This stage can bring a mix of emotions: anticipation, anxiety, pride, and concern. Yet within the mixture lies reassurance. Every dollar saved over the years now speaks with quiet strength. It says, "You are not starting from nothing. You are stepping into this moment with a foundation beneath you." The horizon may still bring challenges. There may still be gaps to fill, loans to manage, or costs to adjust. But the years of steady preparation soften the weight, turning what might have been overwhelming into something manageable. Reflection. Preparation does not remove all challenges, but it transforms them into steps that can be walked with steadier feet. The quiet arrival. At last, the day comes. The child, now grown, packs their belongings for college. The savings account, once just a small seed, now fulfills its purpose. Tuition bills are met not with panic, but with the calm assurance of years of preparation. There is a deep satisfaction in this arrival. Parents may look back on the sacrifices, the slow accumulation, the lessons of time, and see how each played a part in this moment. The journey was not glamorous, but it was steady, and it carried its own quiet dignity. For the student, the weight of debt is lighter. The future is not burdened before it begins. They step into their education with more freedom, more possibility, and more space to focus on learning rather than repayment. The story of saving for college is not only about money. It is about love expressed through patience, about foresight stretched across years, about the belief that tomorrow is worth preparing for today. And in that belief lies a kind of peace, a calm that settles quietly at the end of a long journey. Reflection. True preparation is an act of quiet love, carrying its strength silently into the future it protects. The echo of preparedness. When the child finally settles into the rhythm of college life, the echoes of preparation begin to reveal themselves in subtle ways. Bills that arrive at the start of each semester do not carry the same crushing weight that burdens so many others. There is no frantic scramble, no desperate phone calls to lenders, no fear of late payments accumulating interest. Instead, there is a calm unfolding, as tuition is quietly covered, as housing is paid, as books are bought without panic. This does not mean that the journey is effortless. College, after all, is expensive, and even the most disciplined savings may not cover every expense. But the difference is striking. Where others are forced to juggle jobs that steal hours from study, or where anxiety about loans lingers constantly in the background, this student walks with more space in their days. They can dedicate themselves to learning, to curiosity, to exploration, without the invisible chains of debt tightening around each decision. For the parents, the echo of preparedness arrives in a different form. It comes in the quiet reassurance that their sacrifices were not in vain. Each time a tuition bill is paid with savings rather than debt, they feel the presence of their earlier decisions. The meals cooked at home, the vacations forgone, the careful budgeting, all of these whisper back in gratitude. The parents are reminded that time rewards patience, that foresight eventually takes shape in tangible relief. The family conversations begin to shift as well. No longer are they about the struggle of setting aside small amounts each month, but about the unfolding of new opportunities. What internships might the student pursue? What study abroad programs might be possible, free from the constant pressure of repayment? These conversations are hopeful, not anxious. They look outward, toward possibility, rather than inward, toward worry. And yet, even in this moment of relief, there remains a gentle humility. The family knows that not every challenge can be erased by savings. Life is unpredictable. Markets shift, costs rise, and emergencies can still arrive without warning. But preparation, though never perfect, has softened the ground beneath their feet. They walk on firmer soil, steadier and less shaken by each gust of uncertainty. The echo of preparedness is not loud or celebratory. It is quiet, almost invisible, woven into the rhythm of daily life. It shows itself in what does not happen: the absence of panic, the absence of crushing debt, the absence of doors closed too soon. It is a calm presence, a quiet friend that stands beside them in each new step forward. And in the heart of both parent and child, there is a shared recognition. Saving for college was never only about money. It was about creating freedom. Freedom from fear, freedom from unnecessary struggle, freedom to pursue education as it was meant to be pursued, not as a burden, but as an opening. Reflection. Preparedness does not always speak loudly, yet its echoes shape the quiet peace of tomorrow. The ripples beyond tuition. As the semesters flow into years, the student gradually settles into the patterns of university life. Each term begins with a new set of classes. Each summer offers the chance for work or internships, and each holiday is a brief return home. The rhythm of study, growth, and rest continues steadily. Through it all, the ripples of early preparation continue to stretch outward, touching places not immediately visible at the start. One of those ripples emerges in the way the student makes decisions. Without the heavy weight of looming debt, choices about courses, majors, and extracurriculars are made with freer hands. They can select a major not purely by what promises the highest salary, but also by curiosity and interest. The fear of repayment does not sit behind every decision, pushing them toward options that may not align with their heart. This freedom is subtle, but powerful. It grants the student the chance to study with genuine attention, not only with calculation. Another ripple is seen in the confidence of independence. Because much of tuition is supported by the family's steady savings, the student can work part-time by choice, not necessity. Jobs during college become opportunities for experience, not burdens to survive. Internships are pursued not because they must pay immediately, but because they might open doors for the future. The financial cushion built over the years provides a soft landing beneath each step. For the parents, the ripples extend into peace of mind. Their lives, though still filled with responsibilities, are not dominated by the specter of college debt. They can focus on their own retirement planning, on maintaining their home, on living with a balance that does not feel perpetually stretched. They no longer live in fear of sudden tuition shocks, because the groundwork has already been laid. And then there are ripples that reach beyond finances entirely. A child who sees years of sacrifice and preparation is also learning quietly. They begin to recognize the weight of patience, the value of discipline, and the strength of foresight. These lessons are not taught directly in a classroom, but through the living example of their parents. They observe that true financial wisdom is not about sudden gains, but about steady faithfulness. These are lessons that will echo through their own adulthood, shaping how they save, how they plan, and how they dream. Over time, the family begins to see saving not as an isolated act, but as a ripple that carries on across generations. Just as the parents prepared for their child, so too might the child one day prepare for their own. The habit of foresight, once formed, becomes a legacy, a quiet tradition passed forward, not in loud declarations, but in steady choices. As graduation day slowly approaches on the horizon, the family realizes that their journey of saving has shaped more than bank accounts. It has shaped character, habits, and possibilities. The act of setting aside money for college was, in truth, an act of setting aside a future free of certain burdens. It was a way of clearing space, so that when the time arrived, the child could step forward with less weight on their shoulders. The ripples continue, stretching outward, touching lives in ways that cannot be measured only in numbers. For what was saved in money has also been saved in peace, in freedom, and in hope. Reflection. The ripples of preparation flow quietly outward, carrying lessons and freedoms that reach far beyond the moment they were first created. The transition beyond graduation day arrives with a mixture of pride and quiet relief. The years of saving, of careful planning, and of steady sacrifice have brought the family to this moment. The child, now an adult, walks across the stage, receives their diploma, and steps into a new chapter of life. The applause fills the air, but beneath it is a softer, more enduring sound. The steady heartbeat of preparation that made this day less burdened, more free. For many graduates, the first months after college are marked by the shadow of debt. They calculate repayment schedules, postpone dreams, and balance the weight of obligation with the uncertainty of beginning careers. But for this graduate, the story unfolds differently. While challenges remain, the search for a job, the adjustment to independence, the gradual climb into stability, they are not compounded by overwhelming debt. The path forward feels clearer, less clouded by financial strain. The transition into the working world is still daunting. Entry-level salaries are modest, expenses of rent and living quickly consume earnings, and the sudden shift from student to employee can feel abrupt. Yet, the lessons of financial preparation echo here as well. Having grown up within a household that valued foresight, the graduate begins to apply the same principles. Instead of spending recklessly with the first paycheck, they consider budgets, savings, and even retirement contributions. The wisdom passed down through example begins to take shape in their own hands. The parents, too, feel the gentle reward of their earlier sacrifices. They no longer carry the strain of tuition bills nor the guilt of passing heavy debts onto their child. They can step back, allowing the graduate to walk independently, knowing they have offered them not only education, but also freedom. Their role evolves from providers to supporters, from protectors to advisors, watching their child navigate life with the tools and space they worked so patiently to provide. There is also a deeper realization in this transition. Saving for college was never only about the years of study. It was about smoothing the bridge into adulthood. By lifting the burden of debt, the parents gave their child not just an education, but a head start. An opportunity to begin their working years without the weight of repayment dragging behind them. For the graduate, this freedom means choices. They can pursue a career path that interests them, even if it pays less at first, without the crushing urgency of repayment. They can consider graduate school, entrepreneurship, or relocation, guided more by possibility than by desperation. The absence of debt becomes a quiet form of wealth, an invisible asset that shapes every decision, every risk, every dream. As months pass into years, both parent and child begin to see how preparation ripples into adulthood. What began as drops of savings has now grown into the confidence of independence. The years of college may be complete, but the story of saving continues to echo in each financial decision the graduate makes. Each responsible choice, each patient step forward. The transition beyond graduation is more than a change in status. It is a passage from dependence to independence, from guided steps to self-direction. And within this passage lies the gentle reassurance that the foundation is steady, that the ground beneath has been prepared, and that the years ahead, though uncertain, can be walked with freedom. Reflection. The quiet gift of preparation is not only freedom from debt, but the freedom to step into adulthood with steadier feet and wider choices. The generational echo. As the graduate settles into their career and begins to carve out a life of independence, the lessons of the past do not fade. Instead, they resurface gently, shaping new choices in ways both subtle and profound. The years of watching their parents save patiently for college created more than financial relief. It created a quiet blueprint for how to think about money, responsibility, and the future. With each paycheck, the graduate begins to consider what to set aside. It may be a retirement account, an emergency fund, or even the first small savings toward a future child's education. Though the amounts are modest, the act carries a deeper weight. It is a continuation of a pattern, a thread stretching across generations. What once began as a parent's sacrifice now becomes the foundation of a new cycle of preparation. The graduate notices the difference between peers who carry heavy debt and their own lighter steps. Friends speak of delaying milestones, buying homes, starting families, pursuing further education, because loans still weigh heavily on their backs. In these conversations, gratitude quietly surfaces. The absence of debt is not only a personal relief, it is a reminder of what foresight can achieve. This recognition deepens the resolve to continue the tradition, to ensure that the next generation does not start their adult life already chained by financial obligation. For the parents, watching their child adopt these habits brings its own peace. They see that the lessons were not lost, that the years of discipline have left more than paid bills, they have left values. The graduate does not need constant reminders. The understanding has already been woven into their way of thinking. This, perhaps more than the financial achievement itself, is the greatest reward. the assurance that the wisdom of preparation will continue beyond them. The generational echo also extends beyond the family. The graduate, now aware of the strength of saving and planning, shares advice with friends and colleagues. They encourage others to start early, even with small amounts, reminding them that the act of preparation is more important than perfection. In quiet conversations, in shared experiences, the echo of one family's foresight begins to ripple outward into the wider world. Over time, these patterns accumulate. Families who prepare inspire others to do the same. Small habits grow into shared wisdom, and shared wisdom becomes a cultural rhythm. The story of saving for college is no longer only personal. It becomes part of a broader movement toward responsibility, toward foresight, toward freedom from the burdens that so easily entangle the unprepared. And yet, even in this broader scope, the heart of the story remains intimate. It is a parent setting aside a few dollars each week, a student freed from the chains of repayment, an adult beginning their own journey of saving with patience. The generational echo is not grand or loud. It is quiet, steady, and deeply human. As the graduate steps further into adulthood, the story of saving for college becomes a memory, but its lessons remain alive. They are carried in each choice, in each act of discipline, in each gift of foresight passed on to the future. What began as a single decision to prepare has now become a legacy. Reflection. The quiet choices of one generation echo gently into the next, carrying wisdom, freedom, and the promise of steadier paths ahead. The quiet shape of legacy. As years pass, the rhythm of financial responsibility deepens into something larger than simple saving. What began as an effort to prepare for college slowly transforms into a wider vision, the creation of stability, continuity, and legacy. The parents, now older, begin to reflect not only on the choices they made, but also on what those choices mean for the generations that follow. Legacy, in this context, is not about vast wealth or opulent inheritance. It is about shaping habits, values, and small systems that endure. It is about making sure that the next generation does not need to begin from zero. The parents recognize that their steady savings for education were not a single act of financial planning, but the beginning of a longer story, one that will ripple through family life long after they are gone. The graduate, now more settled in their career, begins to see this vision as well. They no longer think of money only in terms of income and expenses. They begin to consider security, resilience, and the structures that protect against uncertainty. Insurance, retirement funds, long-term investments, all of these enter the conversation, not as burdens, but as tools for creating a future that feels steady. In family gatherings, conversations slowly shift. Instead of focusing only on tuition or immediate needs, they begin to discuss the broader picture. What does it mean to prepare for health costs in old age? How can wealth, however modest, be passed on responsibly? What lessons should be recorded, shared, or taught so that the next generation does not have to relearn them through hardship? These are not urgent discussions, but they are reflective, marked by a calm recognition of time's steady flow. The family also begins to recognize that legacy is not only financial. The graduate carries forward a way of thinking, a mindset of discipline and foresight. This mental inheritance is more valuable than any sum of money. It means that when challenges arise, unexpected expenses, market downturns, or life's inevitable uncertainties, there is less panic, more patience. The lessons of saving for college now manifest as wisdom in navigating all aspects of financial life. At the same time, the parents notice how their efforts free them to focus on other aspects of living. Because the burden of college debt was avoided, they do not need to stretch themselves endlessly to support their child in adulthood. They can dedicate energy to relationships, to health, to moments of quiet joy. Their sacrifices, though real, did not strip them of everything. Instead, they brought balance, granting them peace in later years. The quiet shape of legacy is not dramatic. It does not arrive with sudden wealth or striking achievements. It reveals itself slowly in the calm assurance that the family walks on steady ground. It is the knowledge that each generation has contributed something, patience, discipline, foresight, that will carry the next forward. In the end, the legacy is not only about what is saved, but about what is taught. That money, though important, is never the sole measure of security. What truly protects a family is the cultivation of habits, the practice of preparation, and the faith in slow, steady progress. These are the threads that weave across generations, tying the past, present, and future together in quiet continuity. Reflection. Legacy is not measured in sudden wealth, but in the quiet habits and steady choices that endure across time. The circle of continuity. In the later seasons of life, the story of saving for college no longer feels like a single chapter. It feels like part of a larger circle. The parents, now older, watch as their child not only stands on their own, but begins to build steady foundations for the future. What once felt like sacrifice and long waiting has now softened into memory, a memory lined with gratitude and calm assurance. The circle reveals itself in small ways. The graduate, now perhaps with a family of their own, begins to open an account for their child's future. The act feels familiar, almost instinctive, as if repeating a ritual once performed by their parents. Small amounts are set aside, just as before. At first, it seems too little to matter, yet they know from experience that time, patience, and discipline can turn modest beginnings into steady support. The cycle of preparation continues, quiet and unbroken. The parents witness this with a deep sense of fulfillment. Their efforts did not end with one graduation ceremony. Instead, their quiet discipline has seeded a way of living that will outlast them. The lessons of saving, of preparing, of choosing foresight over immediacy have been absorbed, remembered, and carried forward. This is the essence of continuity. Not wealth handed down, but wisdom lived out. As the years stretch further, the family realizes that financial stories are never only about money. They are about time, about patience, and about the shaping of values. A savings account is more than numbers on a statement. It is a story of love expressed slowly, of dreams supported silently, of futures made gentler through present effort. The graduate carries this awareness and in turn shares it with the next generation, not in lectures, but in quiet examples. The circle of continuity also brings peace to the parents themselves. No longer must they worry about whether they did enough, whether their sacrifices were noticed, or whether their years of planning were worthwhile. The proof is before them, living and breathing. Their child who walks with lighter steps, their family who now plans with confidence, their legacy carried gently forward. What was once anxiety has become serenity. Life, of course, still carries uncertainty. No family, however prepared, can predict every storm, but the act of preparation, repeated across generations, ensures that the storms do not strike unshielded. There is always some shelter, some cushion, some thread of foresight that softens the hardest edges of life. This knowledge itself becomes part of the family's comfort, the recognition that while the future is unknown, they have learned how to walk into it with steadiness. In the quiet of evening, as parents and children gather, there is little talk of accounts or investments. Instead, there are stories. Stories of how saving for college began with small sacrifices, how those sacrifices became opportunities, how opportunities grew into freedom. These stories, told softly, are not about boasting or comparison. They are reminders of the power of patience, the gift of foresight, and the enduring strength of preparation. And so the circle closes, only to open again. Each generation learns from the one before, carrying forward the same rhythm: to save patiently, to sacrifice wisely, to prepare lovingly, and to trust that time, though slow, rewards those who walk steadily. The story never truly ends. It simply continues, quiet and unbroken, into the lives of those yet to come. Reflection. What begins as saving for one future becomes a circle of continuity where love, patience, and foresight echo gently across generations. The quiet wealth of peace. As the years deepen further, the family begins to realize that wealth is not always measured in numbers or possessions. True wealth can be found in the calm assurance that comes from preparation, in the relief of not being weighed down by regrets, and in the freedom to live with intention rather than fear. The parents, in their later years, live simply. Their home is modest, their routines quiet, and their desires fewer than in the past. Yet within this simplicity lies a richness that cannot be bought. They carry the peace of knowing that they gave their child a gentler start, that they turned potential burdens into opportunities. This peace, though unseen, is its own form of wealth, steady, lasting, and deeply satisfying. For the graduate, now fully grown into adulthood, this wealth of peace is also inherited. Though financial accounts may still fluctuate, though life's challenges continue to arrive, there is always an inner assurance that stems from the example they were given. They walk into financial decisions with less fear because they know preparation works. They do not panic at setbacks, for they understand that time and patience can mend what is broken. This sense of peace also colors their relationships. Money, for many, can be a source of tension. Debts unpaid, bills overdue, promises unkept. But for this family, the rhythm of foresight reduces those tensions. Conversations about money are not filled with blame or despair, but with quiet planning and shared responsibility. There is no illusion that life is perfect, only the calm recognition that challenges are more manageable when faced with preparation. Over time, this quiet wealth spills into other parts of life. The graduate, freed from heavy financial chains, may devote more energy to creativity, service, or community. They are able to volunteer, to support causes, to give generously because they are not consumed by the urgency of repayment. In this way, the peace created by preparation expands outward, touching lives beyond the family, rippling softly into the world around them. The parents reflect on this with gratitude. They see that their years of saving did more than pay bills. It created space for their child to live more fully, more generously, more freely. And in that recognition, they feel a quiet contentment that no material wealth could match. Reflection. True wealth is not counted in coins alone, but in the peace and freedom created by steady foresight and patient love.